Hey guys, what's up? Austin Smith here with a review of a magnetic travel shogi set. Shogi is Japanese chess, or a Japanese variant of chess, and this set is made by UB, a company that makes quite a few chess sets from different cultures. Some of the more popular ones, Japanese, Chinese, and Western. Little explanation here, suitable for 2 players. Time 20 minutes, I guess that makes sense, and 6 and up. I'm not entirely sure about that, but whatever. The name is in Japanese everywhere, but there it is, Shogi, at least on the label. And you got the standard warnings and stuff. There isn't any lie that I can see that says it comes with instructions, because it certainly doesn't. There are no instructions in this box. It's just a plastic bag that had a board. The box is kind of boring, so let's put it off to the side and bring in the set itself. This set is very similar to the 9-inch travel chess set they have. In fact, it's pretty much an identical board with a different layout on it. This is a fake wood with some with a different grid. The grid is 9x9 because Shogi is played on a 9x9 board as opposed to 8x8. Other than that, the board is the same. It's got the same ridges, no clasp in the center, just a couple hooks in there that do pop open. They might break after a while, but they are really sturdy at the moment. Inside, you don't get a baggie. The pieces come on a sprue, and you pop them off the sprue, and you get a bunch of pieces. It looks like there's a red side and a black side right now, but there's not, because every piece is double-sided. There's actually no distinct color sides in Shogi for various reasons. One of them being that you can swap sides with the pieces. The board folds out nicely. As you can see, there's a little bit of spring in there, but that's not the board caving in. That's because it's kind of sprung up the way it's sitting here. Got nice little feet. They're not, the greatest feet in the world, but they do indeed work. They prevent it from wiggling around, which is nice. And so now I'm going to set this board up and come back and try and get rid of the glare. Alright, and here we have Shogi set up, mostly by me, although I did have to consult online a little bit. It looks a bit confusing, and that's because other languages are confusing. Turn it around here, and there we go. We have a pretty much identical setup, maybe with a few sloppier pieces, but it is literally identical. The pieces are not different, there's no different colors, and that's because when you capture an opponent's piece, you can drop it in on the board later using specific rules to as your piece. So the only thing that determines something as your piece is the direction it is pointed. So these ones have these little pieces have little tops here, and that direction they are pointed is the direction that they are being controlled in. So all my pieces point away from me. Anyway, I'll take a look at the pieces here. Interestingly enough, these are Japanese and Chinese. So we have the Japanese word for pawn, character for pawn up at the top there, and then the Chinese character for pawn. I think that is traditional, but I don't entirely know. Not all sets have that. Some of them just have the Japanese word, which makes sense because, as you can see, here's the Chinese character for rook, and here is also the Chinese character for rook. These pieces behave in a somewhat possibly similar way to a rook, but they're not really rooks, so you can see how that might be slightly confusing, but it also helps with the positioning. For instance, if you know Chinese chess, the rook goes here, then the knight, and then you get kind of screwed up. You might notice that these 5 pieces here rather, have the same character on the bottom. I believe that means general or something close to it. That's not actually a piece in Chinese chess. And something I always get mixed up are the gold and silver generals. I always want to put the silver general where the gold general goes. I just want to swap the two. There's your king. It's not really a king, but I forget exactly the word that they call it. You've got a rook, and you've got a bishop, essentially. Not quite, again. And you've got a a lance, which kind of acts like a rook, but not really. It goes forward 2 spaces. It's like a powerful pawn. You've got a horse that can go forward only, and some generals that move kind of like a fers in ancient chess. It's like a very underpowered queen. I am not particularly good at this game. I'm not going to claim to be a master. In fact, I don't exactly know all the rules, and my main problem with it is that every piece promotes. So, almost every piece. You flip it over, and you get a character like that I can hardly recognize, and it moves differently. And in fact, looking around, the only pieces that don't promote are the pieces that go next to the king and the king themselves. So those are the gold generals, I believe, and the king. Silver generals promote into gold generals, blah blah blah. The most powerful piece is the promoted rook, which isn't even as powerful as the queen. So you have a bunch more pieces, but you have a lot less power. And you have an interesting mechanic with the dropping in of captured pieces. Now, the board, as I say, is 9 by 9. The object of the game is checkmate, so it's fairly simple. It's kind of slow in the beginning because pawns don't move as fast, and the board is obviously a bit bigger, although it gets much more interesting later in the game, and I always lose. I might be alright at chess. I can probably beat most people who have just been taught the game, and at Chinese chess can hold my own against other people who, like me, haven't played it their entire lives. Anyone who has played it a long time from the Asian countries that do play it often would probably destroy me. This game is... I'm not even close. I probably could teach this to someone to have them beat me in the first game, because I'm just not very good at it. But I like it. The board is good. That doesn't take away from the board or the pieces. The pieces are alright. For being flippable, they have to be printed on both sides. They work. They're not the sturdiest of pieces, but they're also not particularly unsturdy. They're not really flexible in any way, as you can see. One or two of them did kind of feel like they were splitting apart when you pop them off the sprue, but that's not really a major issue, and they haven't popped apart yet after a bunch of messing around and some gameplay. I have a feeling they won't. They feel very solid. They click down really nice. You might have seen a couple of them shifting around as I lifted the board up, but if you shake it, they move around a little bit, but they're not too bad. They will probably stay. Let's see if they stay. They will stay attached at least, and then you can't play the game because all your pieces are shuffled around on the board, but they stayed attached to the board, which is better than losing them, even though you lost your game. One thing I would like to note is if you're trying to set up the board based on this picture here, this is these two pieces have swapped. I don't know if they're trying to say that a game was played where these two pieces swapped, or they just didn't set it up quite right. They probably are trying to, obviously they're trying to show that some of the pieces have moved, so they might have just had those swap. But anyway, don't completely trust the box. It's a good set, though. I really like it. If you're trying to learn how to play Japanese chess, there are better sets out there, but if you want to learn a fairly traditional way and you already know the Chinese characters, this one's pretty good. I believe it's traditional to do that, so I believe quite a few sets do have both Japanese and Chinese characters sort of in combination. Anyway, it works well. It does what it's supposed to do, which is play Japanese chess well. And as a learner's set, it's good if you don't want the pictures that make it similar to Western chess. This is good. If you do want those, or if you want something like B for bishop, P for pawn, K for king, whatever, that's not the thing. That's not in this one. There are sets that do that. There are also sets that have the little moves outlined on the pieces themselves. Those are a bit more expensive and a bit more complex. But this one is a fairly good starter set, as I said, and I quite enjoy it. It does what it is supposed to do, and it's pretty high quality. It's good materials. It'll probably last for a while, and it's easy to put in a bag, although it's a bit big. You probably wouldn't want to take it with you daily or anything. Anyway, Bye.